Hello, friends. It's Carla, your online doctor, with today's Live in 5. Today is Monday, May 4th at 5 p.m. So, I wanted to talk today about a screening method for COVID 19 that and I think other professionals as well believe would be a better one than monitoring temperature. These temperature checks, in my opinion, might not be really what we should be looking at, okay? And it may save lives in the long run. So we're going to talk about it today and tomorrow. So all the experts say that the majority of people who have antibodies or who have had COVID-19 never even knew they had it. Also, they say we can be contagious days before we are symptomatic. So tell me, what does checking your temperature before going into a store or a salon or to the park really do? I mean, clearly if someone has a fever, I think they know they have a fever now, and they should, if they're sick, they should stay home. Of course, there are always those people that go out anyway, but usually that is to the drugstore, I would think, or to the supermarket for necessities, not to the park to go exercise, unlikely to the salon to get even a much needed haircut. Yes, my hair is getting very long. But I think it would be the rare person that is found to have fever that also has no other symptoms and has no clue that they are sick. Okay, so checking temperatures, maybe it's to protect the people in the store for somebody who's kind of breaking the rules. You just hope that people aren't doing that these days, that they're really being a little bit more respectful of everyone else. But here's information from an article I read. Doctors in New York emergency rooms were asked about the patients coming in with respiratory illnesses, but also many other people coming to the emergency room without respiratory symptoms that were later found to have pneumonia and were actually COVID-19 positive. Now, what the doctor said is most patients, except the sickest, which you clearly knew were sick, had no sensation of breathing problems, even though they had diffuse pneumonia on their chest x-rays. Now, what they all had was what's called silent hypoxia. Okay, by silent meaning they didn't know they had it, and by hypoxia I mean that their oxygen levels were very low. Okay, pneumonia is an infection in the lungs that in the air sacs, okay, the alveoli, the areas where there's gas exchange. They fill with fluid or infectious material, pus, that kind of thing. And normally patients develop pain with breathing and or shortness of breath. Okay, you know you don't feel well. COVID pneumonia patients don't have this, especially early on, and by the time they do, their oxygen levels are alarmingly low. Okay, normal oxygen saturation should range between 94 and 100%. And are considered very low when they're under 90%. Okay, it makes anesthesiologists like myself, ER physicians, it makes them very nervous when someone's oxygen level is below 90%. ER physicians are reporting that the saturations on these people are as low as 50%. That's frighteningly low. I can tell you, if I have a patient with an oxygen saturation of 50%, I'm quite nervous, okay? And I don't get nervous easily. Many patients had been at home for days with fever, cough, and fatigue, but only became short of breath, which finally brought them to the emergency room the day that they presented. Up until that point, they felt that they were doing okay. They knew they were told to stay at home and to not come to the emergency room unless they were feeling short of breath. Now, this is at a point which they are, to the ER physicians, almost at a critical point, okay, and many of them require intubation and mechanical ventilation despite being pretty awake and alert. Now, most patients, in my experience, that are hypoxic, meaning low oxygen levels to that degree, have an altered mental status or severe respiratory distress and almost are begging you to intubate them, okay? Not these people where they're signing consent, saying, okay, put me on a ventilator. people are not thrilled about going on ventilators these days because of all the fear that they'll never come off the ventilator, and justifiably so. Okay? But these patients are not coming in that way. Their oxygen levels are critically low, and they're really not looking severely distressed, meaning gasping for air. Now, some of these people are on their cell phones. They may just have an elevated respiratory rate, but they're not looking like they're in dire need of an intubation, yet their chest x-ray is full of pneumonia. So this oxygen saturation is really showing this silent hypoxia, which is pretty impressive in my opinion. So I want to keep talking about this. There's so much more to talk about. Google pulse oximetry, because we're going to talk about it more tomorrow. I want to explain to you why I think, and a lot of ER physicians think, that might be a way better screening tool than temperature checks for people who are at home that are sick, etc. So we're going to continue this talk tomorrow. I hate to hold you guys over till tomorrow, but I got 2 pages of notes for tomorrow, which we certainly can't do in the next minute or 2. I don't want to keep you all day. So listen to this again. Tag a friend. Let them realize some of this information that's coming out from these emergency rooms, especially in New York, where they're seeing the largest number of patients. And we're going to talk more about this tomorrow. So again, have them stay tuned tomorrow as well, because this will be the sequel to what I started today. So on that note, I hope you guys are having an awesome day. I will see you again tomorrow for another Live in 5.